Hello, everybody, and welcome to my very first podcast. My name is Robbie McGee, and the business I am here to represent is Michelle Robert. I want to give you a little background on myself, and I'm going to tell you the origin story of how this company started and the significance of what it means to me and now what I'm trying to do with this company. So, just to give you a little backstory, I'm a fashion designer. I've been in the industry for a little over 4 years now, and I'm very passionate about it. It helps me articulate messages through design and expression, and just going to really try and give you an honest behind the scenes experience, what I've went through, how it's impacted me, how it's impacted others, and where we want to go with this next. Ultimately, our goal is to empower people by accepting, acknowledging, and empowering our own selves. So it took me a while to get here, and that journey over the past 4 years started off by taking a product that I thought could fit into a market. And I've been self-employed for the past 22 years in a tile industry where I've been installing floors and tiles and showers and a lot of different hands-on construction-y type things. So when I started to make this transition into designing fabric and clothes, and it was really a whole different side of things, and I really let that noise get in the way of what I was trying to accomplish and what I was trying to do. So like I said, when I started this, the hole in the market was that I didn't really see capes being worn by men. So I decided, hey, this is a thing. Like, guys are dressing more like girls, girls are dressing more like guys, and guys are identifying as girls, girls are identifying as guys. And I don't really think there's anything wrong with any of that. I try not to judge anybody. I just observe what's happening and then trying to figure out where I fit into the whole mix. But going back, when I started this whole fashion thing, it was a little bit out of fun, but it was some things down deep inside that I was really trying to pull out and discover who I am and what I was trying to accomplish and what even my meaning was in life. And I started meeting people along the way, and everybody has their own sort of opinion on what you should be doing and how you should be doing things. And this is what really confused me, because that's exactly what I started doing. As I started following people's opinions and people's ideas about where I should be going and what I should be doing and how I should even be doing it. And the more I searched for the answers, the more I actually found that I was getting lost in the process. And it actually came to a point where I decided I just actually can't do this anymore. I'm not into selling the products because I don't really understand the purpose. I'm just bouncing around from one thing to another thing, to like trying to learn how to make online stores and where to go to sell our products and what method should be the best, and it just got to a point where I was very, very frustrated and actually defeated, and my time was just being consumed with results that I didn't really see or didn't appreciate. So I actually took a break from the business for about 6 months, and my wife didn't really think it was a good idea to do that. So I said, well, you know what? If you want the business, you take the business and run it, keep it going, whatever. And at the very least, I'll design a collection a year for you. And that's kind of where I left off. And then a funny thing happened when I took that step back from being so active in the business. I started just going into my community without any pressure, and I started seeing people that I have worked with over the past few years. And then what really stood out to me is all these people were coming to me and they were saying, thank you so much, you inspired me so much. I started my own fashion line, or from the first time I modeled for you, now I'm doing modeling gigs overseas and all around the world. And I had people that started performing with music and professional athletes that somehow got inspired from the little things I was doing and the little pushes I was moving forward that I couldn't even see myself. And I had no idea that this was happening, and it was right there in front of my eyes the whole entire time. So I started reflecting on this whole fashion thing and what it meant to me, and really where I wanted to go with it. And that was the big thing. It was for me, more so than selling a shirt or a cape or having a great online store, it was the impact that made the difference. So as I started to peel back the layers of all the things I was doing, that's what inspired me. It was my ability to empower others to do what they actually love to do and had a passion in. And the more I thought about this, it made me realize that in order to be able to empower somebody else, you first have to acknowledge who you are. And then once you acknowledge who you are, it's not just enough to stop there. You have to be able to accept yourself, and you have to accept who you are, and that you are an individual person, and that you bring something special to the table. And then once you acknowledge that, then you can now empower yourself. You can start to take inventory of the tools and the assets and the skills and the people around you that you have, and you can actually start to empower yourself once you realize that you're so much more and you have all these things. And then once you actually empower yourself, a funny thing happens where you start to look outwards, and then you start to see that the same struggles that you went through on your journey to acknowledge and empower yourself is the same thing that everybody else is having. So that gives you an opportunity at that moment to empower others through what you're doing. And that's where I'm at now. So I want to take you to my origin story of how Michelle Robert got started and the journey the very first time. And throughout this podcast, I'm really going to try and focus on on each step of this. So again, every week I'm going to do a podcast. The first podcast of the month is going to be centered around acknowledging yourself. Week 2, I'm going to really try and focus and bring you that feeling of acceptance and accepting yourself. And then week 3, we're going to really try and bring that feeling of empowerment so you can actually empower yourself. And then every single month, I'm going to hold an event, and that's going to have the ability to empower others with what I'm doing. So this month here, this is our first podcast. So we're going back to the part where we acknowledge the beginnings of this story, and then I'm going to take you a little bit on that journey in the following weeks. And then the event that we're holding this month is going to be about empowering the Black community. And how we're going to do that is through a little bit of research I've been doing. What I come to find out is in Canadian history, we've had 4,200 Black slaves in Canada. Over the last 400 years. So the event to empower the future of the Black community is going to be in association with Atlantic Scholarship Organization. And this event that we're going to be holding is we're going to be raising money, donations for paper lanterns. And I'll have links down or up or wherever they go on podcasts. I'm not really sure. But wherever that is, I'll put some links. And if you feel like you'd like to get involved in that, you can donate for a paper lantern, and you can put a message on it. And at the end of the month, we're going to be releasing 4,200 paper lanterns with messages from people that have donated towards the Atlantic Scholarship Organization. And this is going to be quite a spectacular moment where you'll see what 4,200 looks like. And I think it'll be very empowering to see 4,200 paper lanterns all lit and released into the sky at the same time. And hopefully we can empower some young Black future generations moving forward into the future that can also accept, acknowledge, and empower themselves so that they can empower future generations. But so I'd like to go back into the origin story of how Michelle Robert started. And in order to do that, I'll take you back 4 years. And it's actually right around this time, early August. It was my best friends, Ryan and Michelle. They're like family to me. And it was Michelle's birthday. We were downtown Halifax, in Nova Scotia, and we were at a little bar on one of the main streets downtown. And it was a very hot night, very hot summer night. And me and my wife, we went to the party together. And if you knew me 4 years ago, I was kind of a lost person. Like, I didn't really have an identity, so I was very, very neutral. And when I went out, I would play it very safe, and I would wear, a plain white top or plain black top, plain black jeans or plain blue jeans, and very casual shoes or whatever. I didn't really want to stand out too much, Getting noticed wasn't something that I was always interested in. So we go to the party, and the first thing I see is Ryan and Michelle there. And Michelle, she was actually wearing this here. It was kind of like a little poncho or cape type thing, and at that time it was fresh and new, and she looked very, very beautiful in it. But for me, I was like, wow, Michelle, is that a cape you're wearing? And you can kind of see she looked, and she was like, yeah, I guess it is a cape. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, like you have a cape. And I was just really in the moment at that time, and that was kind of it. So what happens next is kind of what always would happen with me. Is I would look around and see everybody at the party, and then I would find the spot where I could be the most hidden. So I would go over to like the table or the area where there was a bench or something where I can kind of sit down and kind of hide amongst the people that were just talking and kind of staying out of the way. And of course, the girls, the first thing they would do was they would all get up to the dance floor, and they'd all be dancing and just having a good time. And then slowly what would happen is the guys around the table would start to like disperse into the bar. And I'd always try and hang back as much as I could. And what would happen is I would kind of just sit there and watch everybody. And what I'd notice is there was always like the muscle guy that was always really big and very confident in himself and the way he looks because of the effort he puts into his body. And there's always the guy that can just go up and talk to anybody. So he would just kind of go around the bar and have conversations. I don't even know how these people have so many conversations and all the things they talk about, but I've always kind of envied those type of people because I've never been much of a talker. And then of course, the guy that always buys everybody drinks, he's flashing his money around, he's got the good job, he's doesn't have any of those worries. So you just really have all these different people in your group that seem to be so special, or they have something that they can just kind of fall back on. But at this point, I didn't really feel that I had any of those traits or values, or so I would just kind of sit back and I would almost be thinking, I wonder how many drinks like it'll take before I can kind of loosen up and make my way around and maybe even talk to somebody or whatever. And one of the biggest fears I've always had was, if you get up, you almost come to the wall of ladies where they're like dancing and they try and pull you in. So, in order to not fall into that trap of the dance trap where I would have to be out stiff as a board, kind of dancing around, not knowing what I was doing, I would try and stay there on that bench or at the table as long as possible. And every once in a while, you'd have somebody kind of come over, your wife or a friend or something like that, and they try and pull you up to the dance floor, and you kind of go along with the flow. But as I would get up to the dance floor, I would be like, I'm just going to use the bathroom. I'll be right back, and we'll dance, So that kind of thing would happen. And of course, once I get out of the sight of the ladies or the people dancing, I would kind of take my time. There were, when you're at a bar, there's usually lines for the bathroom, and so you can go in there, take your time. And then when you leave the bathroom, you can head to the bar. So once you head to the bar, you can kind of bypass that whole circle of everybody dancing on the dance floor, and you can kind of make your way back to the table. Especially if you buy somebody a drink, you can be like, hey, just gonna give this drink, and usually you can get around the whole dancing thing. So I had my whole plan set out, and it was just shaping out to be another regular night where I could avoid everybody, and just kind of have a fun time being in my own place and watching everybody else have fun. But this night was a little bit different, because what happened this night was, as I was sitting over here just enjoying my drink, Michelle, with this cape, she just walks up to me, and she's just started taking it off. And it was really hot at night, and she was like, hey Robbie, do you want to wear my cape? And I stood up, and something just took over me at that moment, and I was like, of course I do. Yes, I want to wear that cape. And at that particular moment, a funny thing happened that I never really experienced it before, but the best way I can explain it is, I met this struggle where I would envision Clark Kent and Superman would have in the daily experience of trying to hide your identity, or trying to be that superhero that like you truly are underneath everything. And at that moment, I stood up, and she tossed the cape over to me, and once that cape hit my hand, it was like, wow. At that moment, it was like I really ripped off that suit and became the person underneath the suit that was always there. So I put this cape on, and I followed Michelle out to the dance floor, and I like the empowerment that came over me. I just felt like the cape was flowing, like I was that superhero. And it's a tough thing to explain, but all the things that were holding me back at that moment were left at the table. And I wore that cape, and I started going out, and I was dancing on the dance floor. And this is something that, like, I have done a very limited time in my life. Get on the dance floor and just let loose. Usually in these times, I was, I'm not gonna lie, drinking a lot. Let's just say a lot. But at this time, it was still pretty early in the night. I had only had a couple drinks, so it was something different at this moment. But I went out, I danced on the dance floor, I had these moves that I didn't even know I had inside of me, and I was dancing. That wall of girls turned into a circle. My friends, the guys, everybody was joining in, and it was just the greatest. It was the greatest moment of like freedom that I really ever experienced, and it was very unique. But after I danced like for 5 or 6 songs, and had a great time, Ryan, he said, I'm going outside. He says, it's a little too hot in here, and I'm just gonna take a little fresh air. And I was like, man, I'm coming with you, because at this point I was literally dripping sweat, and I just needed a little fresh air. So we go out. Me and Ryan are just standing there talking, having a conversation. And out of the blue, this guy walks up to my and Ryan's little conversation, and he just starts telling me about this cape and how much he admired it, and the dance moves and all this kind of thing. And I was like, oh wow, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden he says, I want to buy that cape from you. And I kind of like took a step back, and I was like, what do you mean you want to buy the cape from me? And he said, no, dude, I want to buy that. I'll give you $30 for that cape. And I was like, huh, that's kind of strange. Like, because at that time, the cape was actually dripping in sweat. And, I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? Like, this isn't my cape. It's not mine to sell. So, I'm not going to take you on that offer. And then immediately he was like, $50. And I was like, dude, no, I'm not selling the cape. Not for $50. Not for $100. So the next thing he said, well, he actually pulled out his wallet and started pulling out $100 bills. And he was like, how about 200? And I was like, whoa. I didn't know if this guy was drunk or, what was going on with this cape. But at that time, it was like $200. And I really had to pause for a sec. But again, I fell back on, the fact that it wasn't my cape to sell. And I didn't really have the right to do that. So I was like, dude, no, I can't. So he pulls out another $100 bill. At this point, he has $300. And I just point blank said, no, 200, another 100 wasn't going to make that big a difference. So this dude pulls out 2 more $100 bills from his wallet, and he passes them to me like that, and he says, this is my last offer. He said, $500 for that cape. And I was like, I had to take a deep breath at this point, and I was like, whoa, that's $500. Like, I'm sure Michelle didn't pay $500 for this cape, but, after thinking about it for a few seconds, I was like, dude, no, I'm not, like, I just can't. I'm not selling this cape. I'm actually going to go back inside now because, like, I don't want to have this conversation anymore. And me and Ryan go back in, and, the first thing I did was I went to find Michelle. And I was like, Michelle, you're not going to believe this. Some dude outside just came up to me and Ryan and just started trying to buy your cape from me. And, like, he ended up offering me $500 for your cape. And at that moment, Michelle's mouth, it literally dropped open. And she was like, you took it, right? And I was like, no, I'm actually still wearing the cape. And she was like, I only paid $30 for that over at so-and-so. I can't even remember the store that she said she bought it at anymore. But anyways, it was, she was really taken aback by the fact that I didn't sell it. And I was like, you know what? Let's do like a photo shoot tonight. So after we left the bar, as people normally do, some people go for food, some people do whatever, but me and my friend Dave and my wife Cindy, we decided we were just going to walk around the city. It was such a beautiful evening out, and everywhere I went, I was on this kick. I was like, take my picture, and I was just feeling so good at that point in the night. I just wanted the whole night to keep going and not really stop. And eventually the night we went home, and really great night. The next morning I woke up, and I just started looking through my phone, and I was like, wow, these are some really cool pictures. And then I was just like, this could actually be a business. So that's where the whole thing started. But more importantly, what I realized that night was the thing that was special about me was the fact that I really stay strong on my morals. And, I can't say that for everybody else, because the more I told this story, everybody thought I was completely stupid for not selling the cape. And, if you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, you may also think that I'm stupid for not selling this cape. But for me, I really try and live the values that I respect and that I appreciate, and that's what's very unique about every one of us, is we all really do have our own things. And what I come to realize is we also project our own visions on other people. So the times that I was sitting back and just watching my friends be the muscle guy or be the money guy, or be the one that talks, I was projecting those labels on these people. And what I really come to find out is it's not about projecting your perception of who somebody is. It's really about allowing them to do that for themselves. So that's really the night Michel Robert got started, and that's why the name is Michel Robert. The Robert part comes from all my friends. That night they were like, "Where did Robbie go? This is Robert." He was a dancing machine. And for me, it was just a really empowering night, and that was a night that really implanted something in my own head and made me realize that I am worth something, and I do have something special, and everybody else does as well. But we are the only ones that can come to that conclusion and acknowledge who we are and look at what we have and empower ourselves. So that's my first podcast, and I just really like to thank anybody that decided to take the time to listen to this story. And I really want to stay involved in the community and continue to tell my story and the steps that led me to where I am right now. And I really look forward to hearing stories, and I hope I can encourage people to acknowledge themselves and accept themselves and empower themselves. And it would be such a great world if we could all do that. We could eliminate a lot of stereotypes and a lot of labels in the world. And if we could all just encourage each other to just make a bigger difference with what we have and where we are, I really think we can make some great changes in the world. So I really look forward to getting to know everybody that offers to spend some time with me once a week. And we're going to be starting up some social media campaigns, and I really encourage you to get involved in some of the events that we're going to have coming up. Again, a podcast once a week and an event once a month. And I really look forward to engaging in the community. And thank you very much for your time. If this gave you any value, please share with a friend, like, subscribe, all that stuff. And I will try and continue to get better and bring a lot of value to anybody that gives me their time. And the sky's the limit. So we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.